Hey everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show here on 9 AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. Come on everybody, come in, come in, come in, come in. We just had the wonderful, wonderful first hour. And we were talking about uh, Palantir. Uh, it seems that they have a plan to monitor women's menstrual cycles, and they would be paid for it. Wow. These people in there, this is part of really Project 2025, but now you're seeing the profit in it. And I want you to go and look at that show if you have not missed that part of the first hour of this show, because we're living in a dystopian world. But we've got a lot going on here. Of course, we've got Hurricane Helene. We're just beginning to see the devastation that is wrought. But no, we're actually Attorney Darrell Jones from the Transformative Justice Coalition. We're not really seeing it. I mean, it's as if we're talking about Hurricane Helene, but we're not seeing it, which is disturbing because this is, according to press reports, the second most devastating hurricane since Hurricane Katrina. More than 1,000 people are missing. They're missing. They're missing. We've got to talk about that. They're missing, and no one's talking about it. You just had the president and the vice president today, everybody, along with other officials. They were on television. They said they're battling misinformation. But we need to hear from the people because there's a disconnect, Hilton County, the winner of the Goldman Prize, which is the Nobel Prize of the environmental space. You're one of the few African Americans and one of the few people of African descent to win it, even though it is very much environmentalism is really a cause that belongs not only to the global South, but to the poor. And we are disproportionately members of those communities. But you've done such brilliant work down through the years, and he's an actor too. I love it. And so, everybody, let's talk about this. Let's talk about um, the price gouging that is going on as now we're seeing that Hurricane Milton, they said it's been downgraded to a category 4. But Vice President Harris said, oh, wait, downgrading is not a word that we really ought to use because when we say downgrade, we might assume that it's not as dangerous as a category 5. And she said that is untrue.
Right.
It is very, very dangerous. Hilton Kelly, you said right. Why?
Oh, yeah, most certainly. I mean, the category 3 does tremendous damage to communities when it comes to property structures, when it comes to businesses. I mean, many buildings and structures, the way they are built now, they cannot withstand a category 3, would really devastate communities and homes and businesses. So to say that, that it's been downgraded, I think it'd be a huge mistake because then people kind of let their guards down. But right now they need to stay in high alert. This monster out there in the Gulf has already reached category 4, and there's a lot of danger still with that, kind of trailing. We don't know exactly how it's going to end, whether or not the winds are going to pick up. I mean, our meteorologists can only tell us so much, but Mother Nature does things her own way.
Well, one meteorologist actually looking at the projections, and not just the projections, as a meteorologist, he's studying the storm. He broke down and cried. He wept. And they're saying that this storm, Hurricane Milton, will change the coastline of Florida. So you're wondering, oh my heavens, what is going to happen? Their storm surges will be unlike any that anyone has ever seen. Attorney Mark Fancher, sending you so much love. Thank you for being with us today. And everybody, I want to thank you for being here. Please like and share. Please, I need thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Like and share AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota, and am950radio.com is where you can stream. But we're also, if you want to see these handsome gentlemen, these brilliant men I'm with today, please go to the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Like and subscribe there and pass the show along. And then go to the Santita Jackson and Friends page on Facebook. And of course, I am on YouTube. I'm on X at Santita J and at Santita J Show. Okay, now I can take a deep breath. But can I? Because now we had the mayor of Tampa who said, Attorney Mark Fancher, Attorney Daryl Jones, and Hilton Kelly. Let me stick with you for a minute, Hilton Kelly. She said, "Look, you must leave. If you stay here, you will die." Heartbreaking to hear her say that. But they were looking at initially. They said there's no such thing as a Category 6, but they said it could be Category 6, right? And my brother, my baby brother looked at me and he said, "Oh, that's ridiculous. There's no such thing as a Category 6." I said, "Precisely." I said, "But these people are wound up about this storm for a reason. Something is going on." And out of an abundance of caution, leaders can't say everything that they know all the time, Attorney Jones and
Right.
Attorney Fancher and Hilton Kelly. You can't. That's why, I mean, even, I'm not a Trump defender, but when he was talking to Bob Woodward, who could have leaked the information that he got in that interview about COVID, like he did on Nixon. If you're gonna take down the president, you can let me know about a virus. He did
Hmm.
not do that, right? Trump said, "I don't know what to say to people because if I say this, what I know thus far, which is still the information is evolving, I'm going to frighten everybody to death." So I mean,
Well,
I understood that part because I grew up with my father, and there's some things that he's been told you just can't say it because you got to guide people gently and carefully. But in the meantime, while we're looking at this, everybody can't leave because you need money, and
right.
most people run out of their paychecks by Monday. You get paid on Friday, Monday is gone.
Yeah, it's sad.
So some people are trapped.
You know,
And
I
then
believe that people, from my experience here on the Gulf Coast, I mean, I've been fighting and running from these storms for the last 24 years. I mean, I moved back here to the city of Port Arthur, which is my hometown.
in
I moved back
Texas.
in 2000.
Mhm.
I came back initially just to visit, but yet there were so many issues we had to deal with here, from refineries to chemical plants, explosions were taking place, leaking gas, kids coming down with asthma, respiratory problems. We got four dialysis clinics here due to chemical exposures. The numbers are off the chart, and we're disproportionately impacted by the oil and gas industry. Now, when there comes a hurricane or a tornado, we're starting to get tornadoes now. I've never seen a tornado here in the city of Port Arthur, but about 8 months ago, we got hit. It just came right after a storm, and it just dropped down. And as quick as it dropped down, it did its devastation and took off again. But yet, it was very quick, very fast, and very devastating. But what we're finding is that more and more we have to think for ourselves. We're living in a new time now. Climate change, I think people are finally getting it. It's real. This is something at one particular point, people are saying, "Oh, it's just those tree huggers. It's just those activists, trying to stir things up." Well, no, it's true. I mean, we know that the planet is warming up. All of our scientists know it, and there's going to be repercussions because of that. And what we're seeing now is the Gulf of Mexico is heating up more and more intensely every year. Now, when I came back here in 2000, it took all the way up for 5 years for a hurricane to hit. We finally got hit right after Hurricane Katrina. Hurricane Katrina hit New Orleans, and then all those people left New Orleans, came to the Port Arthur area, Houston, and we were just helping them to get settled in. 2 months later, we got hit by Hurricane Rita, and Hurricane Rita was just as devastating as Hurricane Katrina. And ever since then, we've been seeing Hurricane Ike, Hurricane Gustav. We got hit very hard by Hurricane Harvey, if you recall. I was on
Mhm.
your channel back then when I was living in a trailer after our home was basically destroyed. 4 feet of water on the inside, and we lived in a no flood zone. We're seeing our coastal lines change, our coastal areas change dramatically. We have roads that have been there for at least 400 years, and now those roads are gone.
When you say that your coastal lines change, what does that mean? Because they're saying that they're almost certain that that's going to happen with Hurricane Milton on the western coast of Florida. What does that mean?
Well, what does it mean? It means that your the way you travel to certain areas, you're going to have to find a new route. There's going to have to be roads built to take the place of roads that we once traveled. And I'm not just talking about backwood dirt roads. I'm talking about highways, I-82, for instance, that lead from Port Arthur heading west into Galveston, Texas. Well, it was a time to where we could drive right out of Port Arthur, Texas, go past the refineries and hit I-82 and go straight into Galveston along the coastal area. But now a section, I would say about a good a 3 mile section of that highway is gone due to water surges and due to strong winds. So now we have to go through Winnie about 30 miles north, and then we take 5 miles over to drop back down to the coastal area and head on into Galveston. So we're seeing this all over the place. I know in Louisiana, there was a golf course that have been serving the community for quite a few years near Lake Charles, where a huge chunk of that golf course just dropped into the marsh because of all of the standing water, all of the water that has been inundating the land for so long to where the land was just oversaturated, and that whole golf course is gone completely. So, and that's a microcosm in the size of our whole our continent. But at the same time, that's the way it happens gradually. And we know there was a continental divide at one time. If you look at Africa and South America, you can see how they once all fit together. Well, guess what? It doesn't happen overnight. It happens gradually. And we are constantly evolving. Our landmass is constantly breaking apart and whatnot. And there are fissures that happen all the time that crack the land apart. So we need to do something. We need to do something quick to try to turn this tide around. It's sad that under the Trump administration, we pulled out of the Paris Agreement to work together to reduce the impacts of climate change when it comes to greenhouse gases. And so I think that was a huge mistake by the Trump administration, and we need to get back on track with the Paris Agreement.
Well, and it's amazing. You're right, because it used to be Pangea. Attorney Mark Fancher, Attorney Darrell Jones, we were one big landmass. Now, the Bible has another explanation for it, but if you just really put all of these places together, you see how they fit. They fit at one time, but they don't fit anymore. And those who do space travel will tell you, and they do communicate to us that the maps look a little bit, the land masses look differently than the maps that we have on Earth. Africa is significantly larger.
Mm-hmm.
Europe is significantly smaller. And the coastlines have been changing. The Mississippi River is vastly wider. People don't want to talk about these things. But this is what we're dealing with. In the meantime, you're dealing with people in real time who are they have an emergency. And I'm going to start with you, Hilton Kelly, then I want to move this around. People are being charged $9 for a $4 bottle of water.
My God.
They're running out of gas. Price gouging is a very real thing. When people have scoffed at Vice President Harris for saying, hey, we've got to go after price gougers. And price gouging is against the law in Florida. But somehow or another, no one cares about that because the people who do the price gouging, they don't pay the price. Mm-hmm. Hilton Kelly, what do we do about that? Because in real time, I'm hoping that people can get enough gas. I'm hoping they can afford the gas. I'm hoping they can get enough water because some people are going to wait it out, and not because they're stubborn. They have no place to go.
Right.
I mean, where do you go when these people tell you if you don't leave, you're going to die? Okay, where do you go?
Well, I've seen it time and time again. I remember when we left Port Arthur, me and my wife, we were taking off. But prior to us leaving, I think we had maybe about 15 cars that pulled up in front of my house because they know this is what I do, is keep people informed of where to go, how to travel, what to bring with them. And so I had a caravan of about 14 cars following me out of the city of Port Arthur. I didn't see it coming, but nonetheless, all along the way, people were, losing their gasoline. They became empty. They didn't have food. So we kept trading vehicles. We kept packing people in cars with other folks. And we would go again, but it was sad that they had to leave their nice vehicles alongside the road. It doesn't matter how much you pay for a vehicle, how fancy your car may be, but if it don't have that petrol or if it's not fully charged, you're in trouble. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people were in trouble indeed. So what I always try to do is just try to help people to think for themselves. We must learn to stay prepared at all times. We
How?
are living in a situation now to where our climate is changing rapidly.
Mhm.
You never know what's going to hit, whether it's going to be a tornado or a hurricane or earthquake. As a matter of fact, when I was living in California, 1989, the Loma Prieta earthquake happened, and I was like 5 city blocks away from the Cypress structure that collapsed on top of the bottom. It was a double-decker freeway, and it was a horrific situation. I helped to rescue people out of that wreckage. Some people we were stacking bodies, and it was sad. But at the same time, we have to stay prepared. We're living in some uncertain times when it comes to our climate. They're still trying to understand what's happening with hurricanes, what's happening with earthquakes, and yet we're not there yet 100%. But we got to stay prepared, and I believe FEMA need to do a better job at helping people to get prepared and stay prepared through a campaign of education about how to survive after a hurricane, how to survive after a tornado or earthquake. We really need education, and we really need FEMA to step it up. And we also need our local government to get more involved. Instead of being reactive, they need to be proactive.
What can they do to I mean, to be better prepared? I mean, because as I shared, the president, the vice president, Secretary Mayorkas, I mean, they're all out saying, "Hey, wait a minute! On the internet, we're getting this disinformation and misinformation." And I see something dystopian coming our way where they're trying to censor the internet. People are conveying their experiences, Attorney Mark Fancher, and they're saying, "I'm not getting the help I need." I mean, they're saying that, Attorney Daryl Jones. Who am I to argue with? I mean, these people are putting up their phones with if they have power, and you can see the devastation. So, I mean, it's just like they continue to say, I know there's inflation, but things are getting better, and you're imagining things. I'm like, I'm not imagining things. I can't afford groceries. I got to put something back. I got to put a lot of things back. I can't afford eggs, chickens, something. I mean, what is FEMA's role, and what are you hearing? 'Cause I'm sure you're talking to people who are coping with these disasters right now, because we're dealing with this in real time, and these hurricanes are unlike any that we've ever seen. Certainly, I mean, Helene, what is a week old, 2 weeks old? What can you do to stay prepared? I mean, what should we do? Because we even had an earthquake in Chicago, Daryl, Mark.
Hmm.
Not too long. I mean, not too long ago.
I know Michigan had an earthquake as well. I was actually at the GM Hotel when it hit. This was maybe about, I want to say maybe about a good 8, 9 years ago. And even Neapolis in Washington, D.C. had to be prepared because it shook along with that earth moving. But yet, when I think of being prepared, I think of during hurricane season, I think everyone should always keep their cars filled up. Never let it get below a half a tank. Also, what needs to happen, we need to be prepared with radio. We need to be prepared with solar energy. There are radios out there now to where you can charge your radio by the sun. And also, some of them have a hand crank to where it generates electricity, and it will have that radio ready to go. You need to get non-perishable items and keep them stocked up in your pantries, in your cabinets. All of these things, we talk about survival mode. Now, when we talk about leaving Port Arthur, it's very dangerous to carry extra gas. We've seen cars on fire on side of the road because they didn't secure the gasoline tanks that they had in the back of their trucks properly, and then sliding around, the static electricity just blew the whole darn gas can up. It was ridiculous, but yet people are not aware. I've seen people here in Port Arthur using their generators in the home, not thinking of the emissions that are coming from this generator. And people didn't know that, wait a minute, these fumes could potentially kill me. And it did kill a couple of people here in the city of Port Arthur because they thought they could run their generator in the home, and they went to sleep and never woke up again. So there's a lot of education should be constant about how to survive these storms. Education should be something that is given to each and every individual through a handbook of some sort, or through some kind of CD or some kind of online information. It's out there, but we have to push it to save lives.
We're not thinking about any of this right now, Attorney Mark Fancher. I mean, this is not even on the radar. And yet, these Chicago, we're on a fault line, Attorney Darrell Jones. I mean, this is real. And the Mississippi River starts above us. I mean, we have to deal with that. I mean, that it goes from what? It starts in Minneapolis, up in Minnesota, and it comes all the way down. I mean, this is very real, but we're not thinking about this. Attorney Mark Fancher, and the price gouging. I mean, most people cannot are living from paycheck to paycheck, barely making it. So, price gouging, you won't be able to get out of town. Just and you better have a car. I mean, Attorney Fancher, what is going on?
Well, when these natural disasters hit, uh, they are a cue for good people, for a civilized society, to put aside any differences that they may have, to end the division and to come together for our collective survival. But that does not happen in the US because it operates under a satanic economic system. These incidents, these occurrences point out the contradictions of the capitalist system and the ways in which the motivation for succeeding under a capitalist system cause you to do things like engage in price gouging. It is considered a virtue in this economy to make as much money as you can, to exploit every opportunity to make as much money as you can, even if it means trampling upon your fellow citizens, even if it means exploiting and dominating people who are helpless, people who are in need. And so when we see people engaging in price gouging, they're doing exactly what the system wants them to do. They're doing exactly what they should do, given the tenets of capitalism and what it's all about. And it doesn't have to be that way. Even within our own society, we've seen examples of how it can be different. When Katrina hit some years ago, and so much of the southeastern United States was in trouble, socialist Cuba quickly mobilized many, many, many physicians, had them assembled in a large building and ready to board a plane to fly them into Louisiana in particular to render critically needed medical assistance. That's what happens in a socialist society. People come together for their collective well-being, for their collective good. And being true to what capitalism would have him to be, then President Bush said, "No, we will not allow these Cuban doctors into the country."
Mm.
Many people perished. Many people continued to remain ill because they were not getting the medical assistance that was ready to be rendered to them by people who were operating as human beings. And so I think all of this is a wake-up call, particularly during this period when there is so much intense division, in the society. God didn't intend us to live like this. He didn't intend for us to interact with each other in this way. Jesus was quite specific about how we were supposed to live, how we were supposed to live in community, how we were to render aid to those who were most in need, and that we were not supposed to engage in things like exploitative price gouging
Mm-hmm.
and the kinds of criminal activity that under our system is regarded as virtuous. So if nothing else, this creates an opportunity for us to reflect and then to get busy trying to transform this reality that we have into something that's more humane.
You know, but it's unlawful. But a part of Mark, even though it's the laws are on the books that go against price gouging, it's very clear that the government officials do not have an appetite to go after the corporations that do the price gouging. You please, I mean,
Yeah.
Daryl.
And
I mean, that's not what they're doing.
right. I mean, but what you're looking at that point, Santita. is, you know, you're asking the government to stand in and be something that's anti-business, something that, you know, the government wants the business's money that the business raised, but the government, you know, doesn't want the appearance of being anti-business. Look, was it President James Madison that said if men were angels, there'd be no need for government, right? So, I mean, so when we're dealing with the actual businesses, we understand that, you know, and I think Mark is completely accurate, that when you're looking at a capitalist system, you're talking about what is my best opportunity to make money. That's what I'm here to do, is to make money. That is my existence. That's my purpose, is to make money from this capitalist system. And, you know, it then becomes, I think, important upon those that are elected, those that we are electing into position, to have the government put into position to be able to try to stem some of the profits, perhaps, that the business world are making, but more importantly, to have something put in place, a method put in place to protect individuals for systems and for natural occurrences such as this. You know, when I think of that, you know, I'm thinking about, you know, I think the situation that was lifted up was dealing with the price of water, a bottle of water going from $4 to $9. Well, let's not stop there, right? The price of gasoline was also going to be gouged for people that are trying to leave. The price of any car repairs for people that are preparing to leave is going to be increased. The price for airline tickets, train tickets, bus tickets, all of this is going to be increased because that's the nature of capitalism. It's the demand, right? There's a high demand and a limited supply, so you can increase the price so that you can increase your profit. That's what the business world model is structured on. I think that, you know, in this situation, we've got to look to the state resources that are being brought in to help the people, the federal resources that are being brought in to help the people, the private resources that are being brought in to help the people. That's where I think a lot of these resources come from. You're going to, you know, I don't see how, realistically, you can legislate how the business is going to their product.
Well, okay, we can't hear you now.
Well, I don't see how we can legislate how the business is going to sell their product and at what price. And is the government then going to decide what's a fair price for this business to be able to sell its product? That's not the government's place. It's just not the government's place to do that. You know, I'm against price gouging. I'm 100% against price gouging. But if you're going to be a capitalist system, if you're going to be a business-based system, you can't then turn around and say you're making too much money. I don't, you know, I just have a problem with that. But I do believe there has to be some type of structure that's there to help the people, to help the ones that don't have the ability to afford the $1,000 plane ride from point A to point B, which is just down the street. And, you know, I'm in complete agreement with that. But I think that it's problematic when we start thinking that somehow the businesses need to be angels when disaster is hitting, rather than the business owners that they are trying to make a profit. They're there to make a profit. And that's what their focus is going to be. And who's going to turn them in? And when you turn them in, who's going to prosecute it? You know, it's just, you know, no.
I think our federal government is going to have to weigh in on this. I think there should be a bill, some kind of bill put in place. Maybe call it the humanitarian bill during catastrophes. I don't know. But yet there need to be a bill passed where funding is set aside for such times in which you can quickly help those in need when it comes to being rescued, when it comes to food and water. Right now, what's happening in North Carolina, it's unbelievable. And our federal government is having a difficult time getting in there to even bring food. I mean, something has to change. We have to start thinking ahead of the curve. We have to start thinking proactively instead of being reactive, and ask the question, what if? And then address that. Have bells and whistles in place to address it, because FEMA clearly is overwhelmed and they do not do an adequate job.
And you can't have the same system that we've had. This is not working. It doesn't work. People are dying. This does not work. And you cannot get a tax break from me. The government is out for it, is from me. It's supposed to be by me. It's supposed to be for me. Now, I can't give you all the goodies, and then there's a social contract that we have. These businesses cannot be allowed to do this, Daryl. And I know you were not saying that they should be, but you're wrong. You're not conducting business, because you also have capitalists who leave their businesses to their employees.
Mhm.
They say, you've worked, you need to get a piece of it. Capitalism doesn't have to function that way.
Mhm.
And what we're doing right now, this is not working. And you know what? You all you have to do is is start listening to people. People are beginning to get very angry, and something's going to change. I am just trying to make sure that the change that happens will be a nonviolent change.
Uh, well,
Yeah, the
the more,
problem the problem is that this country has always been tortured by a schizophrenia when it comes to economics. On the one hand, it says that it wants to be a capitalist country, but conceptually, capitalism is a very brutal system.
Mm.
It contemplates that there is an invisible hand that regulates things. That if a business is going to prosper, then it's going to provide something that the public needs, that the consuming public needs, and it will succeed. And once it does not do that, or if it does not do it as well as a competing business, then that business will go will cease to exist. And everybody benefits because the consumers get a better product that's delivered to them in a way that the prior business did not. And it never quite works out that way. It's a good theory, but what happens is that when these particularly large corporations find themselves in trouble because they're not doing what really needs to be done for the society, and they don't get the support that they need from the consuming public, and they start to falter, then all of a sudden they're no longer capitalists. Now they want to become socialists, but just socialists for the corporations. They want federal bailouts.
Hmm.
They want their company to be sustained, at the expense of the public and its taxes, and then it artificially, sustains these businesses and allows them to continue to make bad decisions, which are very often harmful to the public. Uh, and so, you can't have it both ways. You got to be all in or you're all out. Either you're going to be a capitalist or you're going to be a socialist, one or the other. And when we start expecting the capitalist system to deliver the kinds of things that you would get from a socialist economy, then you're going to run into continuing contradictions and continuing problems and continuing confusion and non-cooperation by a lot of people who don't believe that in a capitalist economy, businesses should be required to look out for the best interests of people. Businesses should be allowed to do whatever they have to do in order to make as much money as they should make. And so I think collectively, the country is at some point going to have to decide what it's going to be. Is it going to be a country that looks out for the interests of all of its residents and makes sure that we're all safe, that we're all secure, that we're all housed, that we're all fed, that we're all employed, that we get the health care that we need, and that we come together in times of natural disasters and make sure that everybody is as safe as they can be? Or are we going to be a country that continues to exist on the idea that every company is allowed to do whatever it wants to do, to exploit as much as it wants to exploit, to get as much money as it can make at the expense of other people? And then when that starts to have harmful consequences for the people, that we panic and scramble and try and think about ways in which we can force them to do better, to be better. It just isn't work, it can't work, and it's not sustainable. We're all in or we're all out, one or the other. And collectively, when we make the decision that we're no longer part of this program that we've had, then that's the time for revolution. And the more people who are on board with the idea, the less likely there is going to be some type of violent conflict. We just simply collectively make a decision that we're going to go a different way.
Well, I hope so, because capitalizing our wins and socializing the losses, that is not working. And all you have to do is listen to the people in North Carolina, with those who can get their messages out, and they are angry and they feel betrayed. We haven't even figured out how to get them to vote. We talked about that yesterday. No one's talking about that because it doesn't matter, because they don't matter. And people are getting sick of this, and they should be. They should. No one deserves to be treated this way, Hilton Kelly. I mean, and now you have a lot of people, and they try. I mean, and I love C-SPAN. I love Washington Journal in the morning, but I see how they shut down these so-called outlier theories because people are talking about weather manipulation. That's been reported before. You know, people see the clouds. You know, when you have a drought, you're trying to get rain. I mean, okay. There's a lot of stuff that's out here that people are talking about, and we try to dismiss people, and you shouldn't do that. You know, we can't continue on this path. And, you know, and Hilton Kelly, there's some people who say, you know, it's so interesting that the poorest people sit on top of the richest land. It's just, you know, I mean,
Well, it's a
Gaza
lot to be said
is,
to that.
I mean, because
I mean,
isn't that what we see in North Carolina? In the
yeah.
hills?
Well,
Talk to
what's
us.
happening right now? I mean, the word is being spread that North Carolina, it has one of the largest underground mines of lithium and quartz, and they have so much lithium underneath the ground. This is what we use to make car batteries, okay? And the quartz that's used for computers, and they have an abundance of this material under the ground in North Carolina. It's been discovered. Now, there was a debate about allowing companies to come in and start mining, but people were against it. Even the local government was against it. So now all of a sudden, ironically, here comes this 100-year storm, if you will, that's washing through the mountain areas, flood, really? I mean, that usually happens in coastal areas. So, I mean, I understand that there's a surge comes in with hurricanes. I get that. But in the mountain regions, that's a lot of rain that has to come down to wash through North Carolina the way it did, coming out of those mountains, tearing down homes. It hasn't been seen before. So what's really going on? Cloud seeding is nothing new. We got that. We also know they know how to cause climate change and temperature, and windstorms as well. So once that's shot out over the Gulf, there's all kind of machinery being developed today for either depleting a place of residence for personal gain for another country or whatever it may be, or just to eliminate a body of people because they want the land to be further incorporated by industries. But yet people have always been forced off of land in very creative ways since the settlers first came here from other parts of the world. They discovered ways in which to push people off the land. Let's look at what's happening in the Congo now. Nobody's talking about that. Nobody's talking about child labor. Nobody's talking about the large number of people that are being ran from their villages. You know, those people have been there for hundreds of years, if thousands of years. And yet now, because of all of the cobalt that's there in Africa and all of the gold and the diamonds, they've been raping that continent forever. And now it's starting to happen here in the U.S. And there is an abundance of lithium and quartz in that area. So it's just really, really strange that this type of storm happened at this particular time. But yet we cannot underestimate the power of our federal government or their deviousness when it comes to being able to make that almighty dollar, because we have one of the biggest deposits of lithium and quartz. We cannot put it past them. So we got to check everyone, our local government, federal government, and find out what they know and see what we can do to either be more involved and voluntarily be moved out and paid a fair market price if they want the land. That's what we're going through here in Port Arthur, Texas. We have the largest oil refinery in the Northern Hemisphere, which is called Motiva. They put out 638,000 barrels of oil per day. And we ship, I think, about 10% of the nation's gasoline around the country. So with that being said, in our community where we grew up, predominantly all Black community, well, we live literally on the other side of the railroad track in the South. And on the other side of the track, that's where most of the industry stacked up, because they didn't want those industries in more prominent areas. And you could understand why, because of the chemicals that are being released and have been released for so long. But it wasn't until 1970 that we even had an EPA. EPA didn't come about till 1970. Prior to that, it was just dump it in the air, dump it in the river, dump it in the ocean, do whatever you have to do to get rid of the waste from the petroleum. And our beaches paid the cost because it washes back up on shore. So I'm saying all that to say this. we need to take a deeper dive into looking at the claim that there are abundance of lithium material underneath the ground and quartz, because that may lead us to why what's happening is happening. Now, you know, I know that we talk about climate change, but there is a way that man can seriously manipulate the weather now, ever since they started cloud seeding. And we need to dig a little deeper into that. What is going on with these systems?
Well, you know, it's interesting. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Robert said, crazy Marjorie Taylor Greene says that the Democrats caused the storms in the red states. But that's not what you're saying, Hilton Kelly. You're saying that we need to look at how there are manipulations. I mean, you know, in the weather and also in just how you have neglect. Because people are saying, you know what, we're not getting the help that we need. And I saw the press conference, and it wasn't a press conference. It was a call. It was the public part of a call with the president, the vice president, and other heads of these emergency agencies, FEMA, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they're saying, look, there's a lot of misinformation out there because of the internet. I said, okay, wait a minute. You all trying to shut down the internet. Stop it. Daryl Jones, Attorney Fancher, Hilton Kelly. We need to listen to people and trust them. Something is not happening out there. You've got more than 1,000 people missing in that North Carolina region. That's big.
It's huge.
We don't have cameras there. And you say, well, they don't have access to the internet and cell service. You have satellite hookups. You know that. So when you take the government in there, they can have satellite phones that surpass what we use as mere mortals. If they want to tell the story, they can do that, and they need to tell the story because all they're doing is angering people, Hilton Kelly.
And killing people. I mean, let's take a look at what happened in Hawaii. What was that?
And
last
Maui.
year. And Maui. Look, let's take a look at that fire, how it started.
Wait a minute, fire that they would not let people, when people trying to drive, they wouldn't let them. Do you remember that, Daryl? They wouldn't let people leave. They had to sit there in the cars and get burned up. Do you remember that?
There was testimony that there was a laser type beam that came out of the sky, and you can witness it hitting key points in Maui. And some cars even melted on the road from that intense heat. And when they went back and did a study and did a mock setup of a fire burning a car, it would not melt the car completely the way this laser focused light that shined across the land, starting pockets of fire, the way it was melting cars. Now, I wasn't there, but there's a lot of testimony out there that speaks to the number of people that want that land to develop it, to get the natives off of that land because they want to turn it into a tourist spot of some sort or for the elite. And this is why those people were literally burned out. Now, we know there's a machine out there now that there's a company that can sell you sunlight now. And what they're proposing, they're putting up.
Wait. They can do what?
They can sell you sunlight that you can use at night.
Oh.
It's out there now. You can Google it. It's out there. And what these guys have come up with.
Hey, wait. I'm not going to dispute you because this man has the Goldman Prize. The Goldman Prize is the Nobel Prize of the environmental space. He's one of the most respected environmentalists in the world. Okay. So this is a space, Attorney Daryl Jones and Attorney Mark Fancher, that he studies, that he's in. And so everyone who's listening, I want you to give it a listen because we too quickly dismiss that which sounds so fantastical. You'll go to a movie and you'll pay for it and you live through something crazy. But we need, I selling sunlight. Now you got me on that one.
Well, the test has already been done. Imagine this, if you take, and I'll be brief. Imagine if you took a satellite and you create this huge dome type mirror, if you will. It's almost like taking a magnifying glass. And I don't know, you guys on there, you probably started a fire with a magnifying glass when you were a kid. You know, if the sunlight light
When
hit
I
it.
was a Girl Scout, I was a
Yeah,
brownie.
so you did it. You did it as well. So imagine this: taking a giant mirror of such, and you send it up there into space along with the satellites that are up there now, and you are able to catch up because the sun is on one side of the planet when it's dark where you are, and then it transitions from around the earth as we turn. Okay, you get it. Now that sun is hitting that satellite, and if the continent underneath it is in position, and they could manipulate this giant mirror type device to come down the ground and hit that point, they're already doing it. As a matter of fact, in the Mojave Desert, where they have these solar panel farms set up, they have already tested sending up a hot air balloon. And the hot air balloon did exactly what they thought it would do. It would capture that sunlight, and they re-angled it by bouncing it off of another balloon and hitting this target. So you have to have them strategically placed, just like around the globe, or maybe I would say maybe about a quarter of the way, to where they could manipulate each other and bounce the light from one area to another, and you can get it. And they proved it by doing a mock project about a good 6-7 months ago. This happened, and they found it was successful. And these guys are getting paid top dollar to develop this technology. It's scary to me that they're going to be able to manipulate where they shine this hot beam of sun, because it can be weaponized. And anything we've ever created, just like the drones, they said it would never be used in populated areas, in residents, but now they're using drones, you know, on the police force and whatnot, almost like a RoboCop situation. It's happening, and they will use this technology, I believe, to further develop, I guess, defense for our country, but yet for other reasons as well, like clearing land and clearing populations. So we have to take a look at this and ask the question, what is going on with this new technology? But some technology that comes to light is very, very helpful to household use, but our government and our military always look at ways in which they can use it to defend our country, and maybe even for urban warfare. You have to be careful.
Does anyone want to comment? Attorney Darrell Jones, Mark Fancher? Mark Fancher, I just see you unmuted yourself.
No, I was going to say that clearly, when we see that imperialists are willing to engage in genocide in Gaza in order to clear land, then certainly it would be nothing for them to use technology to do the same things. And even when they're not responsible for the catastrophe, then they exploit the naturally occurring catastrophes. As in the case of natural disasters, it's not so much a matter of them necessarily causing the disaster sometimes, but they do see that it's happening and it's affecting populations that they really don't want helped, that they may want out of the way. So they just don't give them the aid and the assistance that they need. They let them perish. They let nature take care of the dirty work for them. Here in Detroit, where I work, we see how they allow certain developments socially, economically, and politically. They let these things happen so that people that they don't want in the city, as they gentrify it, are forced to leave. Whether it's through the use of tax foreclosures that are unjustified and unwarranted, mass water shutoffs, redlining, acquiring public property that they turn over to private interests. I mean, there are a number of different strategies that are used in order to gain control of infrastructure, to make the cities unlivable for the poorest and the least wanted. So it's not beyond them in terms of their ethics or their morals to use technology to accomplish their dirty work. So I think, rather than focusing on particular strategies that they employ, we need to focus on those who are employing them to begin with. We need to drive them out of town. Like Bob Marley said, drive those crazy bald heads out of town.
And I'm assuming, Brother Kelly, from what you were saying, that if for a moment we were focused on the Maui burning, and you were talking about the cylinder of light that was hitting, or seen hitting Maui, hitting the ground, I wasn't certain if there was a connection between that and the reflected light from the sun that you're making reference of, making it almost like the magnifying. Look, I was an Eagle Scout, okay?
I'm an eagle as well.
Magnifying. Okay, okay. The magnifying. There we go. Yep, there we go. The magnifying. The magnifying glass that then would light up and start the burning in Maui. I'm just wondering, are you saying that there could be a connection that's there? And if this is something that would be government funded as well, is that correct?
Well, we have people running around here like Elon Musk, who has tons and tons of money and who's very brilliant.
And government contracts.
And government contracts. So this guy is just getting money hand over fist, and it's not going to stop because of his brilliance.
Wait. He went up there to get the astronauts who stuck.
Yeah.
Okay, wait.
Exactly.
Wait. Now, let's not act like this is so far away and down the street. Boeing, who we gave all this money to, these folks supposed to have been up there about 2 weeks, a little more than a week. And the projection is they could be there 8 months. So we turned to a private citizen who's kind of sort of private, because all these guys have the biggest government contracts. He's supposed to get out, not NASA. He's supposed to go get them back. No, this is what I didn't come up with this. This is the model we've got. We're privatizing everything. And nothing is, and you know what? And while we're privatizing everything, we're far less safe.
That's right. Well, I mean, like Mark said earlier, it's a capitalist system. I mean, and also Mr. Jones, it's a capitalist system we live in. And when they make money, our federal government make money off of the tax dollars, so it's this recycled. But at the same time, we're the pawns in this whole game. And until the people stand up and unite and come together to speak truth to power and find a way to stop these guys, it's going to continue. But we have to be united. We have to get our heads out of the clouds, so to speak. This is why they give us so much to do online, to where when the politics are going on and these inventions are being made and bills are being passed that don't necessarily help to benefit your area code, we're sleeping. We got to wake up. We got to be more involved, and we got to be more inclusive when it comes to some of the decisions that's being made with our technology and how it's going to be used. All technology, I don't believe is good technology, but yet some might say otherwise simply because it's used for war. But I mean, some technologies, they could throw the rock and hide their hand, and we'd never know who did it. There's no code on it. It's no particular identification of who's using this technology right now or who has it.
Well, and technology, there's nothing. It's like the internet. My father said, time is neutral. It's what you do with it.
Yeah.
Okay. Technology can be great. We just have it used in some ways for nefarious means. If we didn't have social media, you wouldn't know what was really happening in Gaza. There's nothing wrong with technology.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have seen George Floyd. Okay. I mean, if somebody had not pulled out. If Reginald, I forget the gentleman's name, he's passed away. If he had not just been trying out his camera outside his window, we never would have seen them beat Rodney King half to death. It's how you use it.
How you use it.
So I don't have a problem with the technology, and that's why I resist censorship, which is what these people are trying to do. Oh, misinformation. What's misinformation? You mean to tell me that Lee Harvey Oswald killed this guy by himself? Right. And, and Robert Kennedy, Sirhan was in front of him, but he was shot.
Yeah.
The kill shot came over from in his head, behind his ear. Come on, everybody sees it.
The scary thing though about technology, and I do agree with you, this technology has united us around the globe. We're seeing things that's happening in Africa. We're seeing things that's happening in Iran. We watched the killing of Osama bin Laden, if you will. Yeah. And, all of this stuff now is being televised. But you know what else is being televised? The cell phone right here is listening and watching everything you do, whether you think it's off or on. Trust me, they hide certain things in technology to gain data and information. Have you ever thought about something and then it popped up on the internet right in front of you? I have.
Ed Snowden told us this. And we chased him out of here, and now he's over in Russia.
Yeah,
He told you, cover your computer, and Dick Gregory said it too.
that's right.
He said, wait a minute, you mean to tell me you think you can't turn off your television and it records you, and you're just not observing everything you do and everything you hear?
Our cars are tracking us where you go in your car. You could pull up the data and say you went here on this date at this time. Many police officers around this country are using this technology, using a person's car and looking at that data and then putting them at the place of the crime, and they don't even realize what's going on. And we got big brothers all over the telephone poles now. You know,
Yeah.
in the southern towns, big cities for sure. And I get it. We need that because there's so much crime. But yet at the same time, your civil liberties and your right to privacy is almost non-existent at this point.
And if you give up your civil liberties, you know, they say you don't have the right to them. So we have to make a choice. You know, maybe we should become, what's that, moral? Yeah. Then you would, yeah, then you could use all of this in the right way. You know what? I have to go now, but Hilton Kelly, winner of the Golden Prize, I got to have you back, maybe even tomorrow if I can, because we're looking at these disasters. We need to talk about preparedness, Daryl Jones and Attorney Mark Fancher, because most of us are not prepared. We don't have water. We don't have canned goods. We don't have solar powered radios. If something we don't have generators. And if we have them, we don't know how to use them properly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a lot that we have: brownouts, blackouts. I had one today. They're happening all over the place. And, you know, when we look at the Third World War, that some people say we're already in, we keep thinking that it's just going to be boots on the ground. Our grid is so vulnerable.
Well, I have some guests coming here from Tulane University tomorrow. As a matter of fact, I went up there to talk about climate change and its impacts. They want to see firsthand what's happening on the ground in Port Arthur, what's happening in Beaumont, Texas, and also they're going to go from here to Houston. The next generation is out here. They're learning. They're trying to better identify what kind of world they're going to take over once, you know, we pass on. But yet at the same time, we have to do more. We have to get more people involved, and we have to unite our voices to speak truth to power and identify what it is we want, what we want disclosed to us about what's happening with our natural world, and demand that we get the right information. We have to fight for it. They're not going to give it to us for free.
One of the top environmentalists in the world, the recipient of the Goldman Prize, which is the Nobel Prize in the environmental space, Hilton Kelly. It's always a joy to have you. Attorney Mark Fancher, brilliant civil libertarian, author, social critic, and social constructor. And you, one of the foremost advocates for voting rights in the United States today, the chairman of the Transformative Justice Coalition, Attorney Daryl Jones. You can hear him on WOL every Tuesday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. You didn't think I was going to get it in. Ha ha, shame on you. I love you, everybody. Love you, Yvonne. Love you, Jewel. Love you
guys.
Robert.
Nice
Love you. And it's been wonderful. And I can't wait to be with you tomorrow on the Santita Jackson Show. God bless you.